we had this shot where we're up on a hill and we're looking down on a little valley and there's horses in it, 40 Mustangs. And as you can imagine, it's a big deal to get 40 Mustangs to stop and stand in one spot. So we'd finally done that. You know, it was like an hour setup to gather them all up and get them all standing right where we want them. And we got the camera up here behind Selleck and my brother Keith and me, George Eads, and we're ready to shoot. And the director says, can we move the herd 5 feet to the left?
This is the director that got fired, right?
Right.
Yeah. What was his name?
Dwight. I just remember his first name. I don't remember his last name.
No one else does either.
Yeah.
Today on A Word on Westerns, we are saluting John Wayne, and we're lucky today to have not only somebody who co-starred with the Duke, but somebody who's had a great career making Westerns and had a TV series on Disney for 65 episodes. He's a friend and a friend of most people in this room. Robert Carradine. Bobby.
Thanks, Rob.
How are you? Welcome.
Welcome, yes.
Before we talk about Duke, I want to know about the Long Riders, because does everybody know this film where you've got the Keaches, the Carradines, the Guests, the Quaids, and it rocks, that movie does.
Yeah, we had a real good time making it.
It looked like it.
Yeah, I mean, we had competitions to see who could get downstairs first in the morning to go to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Find another movie where they do that.
Well, how did that come about? There had been a lot of Jesse James movies before, but you were Bob Younger, and it was just so unusual to have brothers playing brothers, and it gave it a special quality, I think.
Well, I was on a film called Hatfields and McCoys with the Keach brothers, and Jimmy started hounding me about, wouldn't it be neat to do a Jesse James movie? And I said, yeah, it sounds great. What do we have to do? And we just sort of kept saying that for about 10 years, and then it finally happened.
Was Walter involved from the beginning?
No, Walter came in pretty late. Mm-hmm. This moment after we'd already finished shooting the movie, and we had to shoot the title sequence, and it was about 3 months later. And we went up to Sonora, California, where they have an old-timey train. And we're supposed to come galloping down the hillside and catch the train. And none of us had been on a horse since we finished shooting the movie. So, you know, Walter yells action, and we all go charging down the hill, and the feet are flying out of the stirrups, and I mean, just a real mess. Everybody's darn near in a wreck. And we pull up, and Walter says, very impressive, man.
Well, in slow motion, obviously you did it again, and in slow motion, it looks like you're all together. I mean,
well, you look at
beautiful.
it in slow motion, you'll see some feet are out of the stirrups.
You know, in that series, The Young Riders, about the Pony Express,
right.
The opening, they're all galloping along together, too, in slow motion, but it's in profile. And so you're watching them in slow motion, and they're going up so high like this out of the saddle that they put the credits in between.
Wow.
Well, I mean, that's some bad writing on there.
That's some bad writing.
You know? And Dobie Carey was in Long Riders, too.
Yes, he was.
That's a great scene with him, too.
Yeah.
A feisty old man he was playing.
Yeah, when we held up the stagecoach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that your father had shot a scene. John Carradine had been in Jesse James and The Return of Frank James for 20th Century Fox back in the late 39 and 40. And is that true? Had he shot a sequence?
True.
Oh, man. Where do these guys get all this stuff, you know?
They just make it up.
I guess. I know. Well, we've set the record straight
It's
for
Hollywood,
that, didn't
man.
we? All right. Your first film role, I think, was on a Bonanza.
Well, actually, my first film role was the Cowboys.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Cowboys then.
Okay.
Okay. How did you get cast for the Cowboys?
Well, my brother David told me about the show, and I said, I don't want to go in there. You know, I'm scared. And he said, well, you got everything to gain and nothing to lose.
How old were you then?
17.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I got everything to gain and nothing to lose. So I went in there, and the scene that they had me read was the scene where John Wayne has come by the schoolhouse to observe the kids and see if he can hire them to be his cattle ranchers. And the scene was about a kid who's scared to be in front of Mr. Will Anderson. And I nailed it because I was freaked out.
Now, in the reading, Duke wasn't there for the reading, right?
No, he wasn't. It was Mark
Okay.
Rydell.
Well, tell me about when you first met him.
Well, we'd been on location for about 3 days, and Mark Rydell comes into the schoolroom where we're all studying when we're not acting. And he says, "Boys, it's time for you to meet the Duke." And I'd been living with my brother David, who was a notorious hippie at the time. So my point of view of Mr. John Wayne was a little bit skewed at the moment. So I thought, okay, all right, we're going to meet the Duke, you know. So we're all lined up to meet him, and I'm the last kid in line. And the closer we got to him, the taller he got. Until finally we're standing right in front of this guy that's 6'5", you know, 225 or whatever. And I couldn't even find my voice. So that was the first time I met him.
Now, what was he like with all you kids on set?
Well, he came out of the, there's one scene where he comes out of his ranch house, and he's got one pant leg tucked in a boot, and the other one isn't. Well, the next take, we all had one pant leg tucked in the boot, and another one wasn't. And he looked at that and he said, "No, no, no, no." Because we're trying to emulate it.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Now, most of those kids, everybody was really credible and believable in that, didn't know how to ride well.
Well, half of them were real cowboys, and the other half of us were actors. Mm-hmm. And we trained the non-riders for 2.5 months, every day at the Equestrian Center. And I tell you what, by the time we shot that movie, we could sit a horse. Mm-hmm. And it shows. I mean,
it does. It works, and there's the camaraderie that you all had. Are you still in touch with any of the
a couple
kids?
of them, yeah.
Which ones?
Steve Hudis.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran into A. Martinez the other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
You had a big fight with him in the film, didn't you?
Yeah, which reminds me of the story where I decided that I should suggest to Mr. Wayne how to do a scene.
I'll bet he loved hearing that, didn't he?
Well, we're all sitting on the fence, and there's this scene with the bucking horse. And, you know, me and A. Martinez get in this fight, and he breaks us up. He says, "Get back up on that fence where you belong." And to A. Martinez. And I said, "Well, excuse me, Mr. Wayne. I'm the head kid, and I don't think you should tell me to get on the fence where I belong." And I mean, you could hear a pin drop. And 125 people on that set just were like, you know, E.F. Hutton. Anyhow, he straightened me out. And I got back up on the fence where I belong.
What was his relationship like with you then, knowing that he had worked with your father a couple of times and you know, the classic stagecoach?
Yeah, well, there was another moment on the film where I was the oldest kid, so I didn't have to go to school as much as the other kids. And we were told to always practice our roping whenever we're not in school. So I'm practicing my roping in front of the ranch house, and it's like a semicircle of buildings and corrals and stuff. And in between the ranch house and the place where he parked his wagons was like a carport. And that's where I was practicing. And I heard this horse coming at a gallop. I mean, a dead gallop. And I turned around and looked, and it's Duke, and he's on his horse Dollar. And he's got him pulled all the way around the wrong way. And that horse is still going for that one opening. And I thought, well, because all the wranglers were out on the range with Duke and everybody else, they were shooting insert car shots. So I waved my arms and whistled, and the horse turned up, and then the wranglers caught up to him and helped him, you know, off the horse, and I guess he was a little startled. And anyhow, later that day, I was practicing the roping, and I felt this presence, and I looked at Tim, and I went, oh, shit, He says, the roping looks good. I go, oh, thanks, Mr. Wayne. He goes, we're having a nice day, aren't we? I said, yes, sir, it's a very nice day. He goes, well, carry on, lad.
That's great.
So that was his way of saying thanks.
Mm-hmm. Mark Rydell, who directed that, didn't do many Westerns, but he, I think, in some of the hour-long black and white Gunsmokes, he was learning his craft. You can watch those and see how innovative he was, saying, I'm going to show off, I'm going to do this. And those episodes that he made were really terrific. How was he as a director on Cowboys? I mean, it really had everything going for it. I mean, the action is good, the characters are strong, it's beautifully shot. Who was the DP?
Robert Surtees.
Mm-hmm. Was that like in Pagosa Springs?
We were in Pagosa Springs for, I don't know, maybe a month, month and a half.
That's beautiful there.
And we were in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and then we finished the film at Warner Brothers in Burbank. Mm-hmm. Did all the night exteriors were actually interiors in these big sound stages. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Slim Pickens was in that too.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So what do you remember about Slim?
Well, Slim, he came in and did his stuff and left. We never got to meet him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he was busy.
I would have liked to have met him.
Yeah. Well, he started as a rodeo clown, so he knew how to ride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he looks good on a horse when he's riding in the movie. Mm-hmm. He sits real good on a horse.
Yeah. I think some of the bad guys in Bruce Dern's group, wasn't Dick Farnsworth one of those guys?
Yeah. I killed Dick Farnsworth in the Cowboys.
Good for you. Everybody got a chance to kill Dick before he got his Oscar nomination, I think. And
exactly.
It changed his life, when that happened,
it really did.
Too. What a good guy. Yeah. A director, I think, is one of the best. He's from Australia, and he directed Lonesome Dove. Simon Windsor. You did a Simon Windsor film.
I did.
The remake
awesome.
of Monte Walsh.
Yeah, up in Alberta, Canada.
Yeah. How was that?
It was amazing. I remember right before the director that he replaced was replaced, we had this shot where we're up on a hill and we're looking down on a little valley, and there's horses in it, 40 Mustangs. And as you can imagine, it's a big deal to get 40 Mustangs to stop and stand in one spot. So we'd finally done that. It was like an hour setup to gather them all up and get them all standing right where we want them. And we got the camera up here behind Selleck and my brother Keith and me, George Eads, and we're ready to shoot. And the director says, can we move the herd 5 feet to the left?
This is the director that got fired, right?
Right.
Yeah. What was his name?
Dwight. I just remember his first name. I don't remember his last name.
No one else does either.
Yeah. And Tom says, why don't you just move a camera an inch to the right?
And Tom was one of the producers, so that guy was gone, I guess,
was
the
gone,
next day.
Yeah. And Simon came in on a day's notice and took over.
Wow. Well, he did that wild horse Rio Grande crossing in Lonesome Dove at night. And they had about 150 horses they were moving, and he said that was quite the adventure.
I bet. Yeah.
He loves Westerns. I asked him what films he watched as a kid, who was his favorite B-Western star. Hopalong Cassidy.
Really?
Yeah, William Boyd, how can you beat that? Well, that leads me into something else. Did you all know that there was a remake of a Hopalong Cassidy film, and you were in that? Maybe you don't want to talk about this.
Maybe I don't.
Oh, this is one. Does anybody know this film? It's Marty Sheen was in it, and it's
the gunfighter.
Yeah, that was the Clarence Mulford book, Hopalong Cassidy, and they remade it without William Boyd, without Wendy, without Lucky.
Yeah. Without a story.
Oh, so that's what it needs. Yeah, I guess you need a script to start.
Yeah, you gotta have
things.
a script.
Yeah. But did you have fun?
I had a blast.
Yeah.
I got a guitar on the show, so that was good.
Oh, great. Now, are you a singer like David sang well, Keith sings well, got an Oscar?
Yeah, I'm just a guitar player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You don't sing?
I don't sing.
My son sings. You could play a guitar for him.
I could.
Yeah. He's amazing. Hi, Robbie. Anyway, Bobby, I appreciate you being here today. Your stories are good. I've wanted to have you here for quite a while.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Rob. I really appreciate it. And y'all, thanks for coming out today.
Okay.
All right, thank you, man.
Okay, you have fun?
Yeah.
I told you. I remember when the Kung Fu movie came on. It was an ABC Tuesday night movie, 73 minutes, and they were doing a different movie every week, but the ratings were so good that they spun it off into a TV series, and it was a smash.
It did well.
Yeah. Well, you actually did an episode of that with your dad.
I did.
How nice.
My dad was captured by the natives, and they tied his eyelids open and stuck him in the ground with him pointing at the sun, so he went blind. And I can't talk. I'm playing a mute.
That's easy. That's not fair.
It wasn't easy. I had to, indicate to David, Kwai Chang Caine, he needs to come with me, so I'm like the dog in Lassie. And but he saved my dad.
Well,
and every day when I came to work, somebody inevitably on the crew would say, "You know your lines." It's like, it got really old.
Yeah. I loved that program, though. Now, were you involved in the flashback montage at the beginning? I know I see Keith all the time as he's getting older.
Right, he's the middle Caine. And no, I'm not in that sequence. But if you notice, when Keith has the Kwai Chang Caine makeup on with no hair and stuff, he looks eerily like a teenage David. I mean, it's really, it's amazing.
A war movie that you did with one of the great directors of all time, Sam Fuller. You played Sam in this World War II movie, The Big Red One. Lee Marvin was in it, Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
That's a terrific film.
Go. Night. Yeah, probably worse. Vinci, Johnson. And then there was the sergeant.
It's been restored, and I think about 40 minutes have been put back into it.
That's correct.
That had been taken out.
Right.
What was that like working and then playing Sam? Oh, you had a big cigar, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
12 a day. And I'll never forget when I first went to that film set. We hadn't met Lee yet. There's 4 guys, Mark Hamill, myself, Bobby DeCicco, and Kelly Ward. And in the script, we're the sergeant's 4 horsemen. We survive every battle with Lee. And the replacements keep getting hit instead of us. So anyway, we're going to go shoot the M1 Garand rifle with live ammunition so that we could replicate the recoil of the rifle. So we're all sitting in this car out in front of the hotel, and we're waiting for Lee, and we're waiting for Lee. And finally, he comes down. His daughter was with him. He sits in the middle of the front seat. The daughter is sitting shotgun. And he looks at the driver, and the driver hits it. Nobody has said a word. We're driving for 15, 20 minutes. I'm looking at the back of his head. It's a chrome sides with a little tuft on top, a full-on Marine haircut. The neck is all red. The ears are large. It's an interesting view. And without turning around, he says, "Which one of you is Carradine?" I went, "I am." He says, "You, Carradine." That was it.
And why did he say that? You must have...
Well, I finally worked up the gumption to ask him a couple of weeks later what was going on there. And he said, "Well, I figure I got to keep up with 4 of you young sons of..." So I wanted to set the deal straight right from the get-go.
Did it work?
No. No, we partied with them. It was a great shoot. And then on the reconstruction, you see when that movie came out, Lorimar Studios refused to release a movie that was over 2 hours. Sam turned in a 2-hour and 50-minute cut and said, "That's it." So they just yanked out 50 minutes, just yanked them out wherever they felt they could. And that's why they wound up adding me as a narrator to make the movie make sense. So cut to 2004, Brian Jameson from Warner Brothers Home Video, a 30-year veteran of the studio, and Richard Schickel, the Time magazine critic. They were having drinks one night, and they got to talking about the Big Red One. And Jameson told Schickel, "I think I could find that footage." So they
they talked Warner Brothers into spending $500,000 to put the film back to its former glory. And they had film coming in from Kansas. They had film coming in from Sacramento. Then a roll of sound would show up, and they're trying to organize all the stuff. They even had 16 millimeter footage that came in from Denmark from a crew that was there to shoot a documentary on the making of it. It happened to be the same angle as Sam shot. That's in the movie. They even redid the sound, 5.1 stereo, the rifle shots. Everything is absolutely authentic now. And we took it to Cannes Film Festival for the reconstruction, I guess, premiere.
Was Fuller still alive then?
No. I wish you could have seen what these guys did. Anyway, they ran the film, and it got a standing ovation. And this is, 30 years later, standing ovation. So if you haven't seen the film, get the reconstruction, because that's the masterpiece. The other one, not so much.
Did they take your narration out?
Some of it they took out because now we could see what was happening, but some they left in. So it's a nice balance. They even found the composer to add some music to these extra sequences. And I mean, it's incredible.
Well, it was great in the theaters anyway. I'm sure it's so much better. I'm going to look up that.
I think you should.
That longer
and then,
version.
A final story about John Wayne was the movie was finished, and we were having a wrap party at a soundstage on the Warner Brothers lot. And we're eating and all that stuff. And I noticed a line of kids forming, the Cowboys. And Duke is signing autographs on an 8x10 of him. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, what the hell? So I got a picture. I'm getting the end of the line. I'm always in the end of this line for some reason.
And you're a C. You should be up at the top.
I know. So I get up to him and I hand him the picture and he goes, Carradine, you stupid son of a bitch. I just made a picture with you. I gave it back to him.
But don't you wish you'd signed it and you had it now?
I do, but I made a picture with him.
It's a good story, though.
It is.
Yeah. Just to have been in that film so early on and having it be such a loved movie now must make you feel terrific, too.
It's funny, I am more proud of it now than I was then, because now I have, to use Duke's word, the wherewithal to appreciate that film's place in American Western cinema.
The film that you've done where you play Frank James, I know The Long Riders is just a film that keeps getting better every year. It seems
it does.
Like with
it's
all the
doing well.
Wonderful cast and just the film itself. But you're in a film playing Frank James. I think Darby Hinton is playing Cole Youngers. Johnny Crawford plays William S. Hart.
I know, it's amazing.
Bill Tillman, tell us about this film.
Well, it was a little different than the Cowboys. We didn't shoot for 15 weeks. We shot for 15 minutes. And the director, Wayne Shipley, he's just a master of getting the most out of virtually nothing. And he got good performances out of us, even Darby. And,
Even Darby?
Even Darby.
Okay.
And the film it's got some humor in it. And I don't know who the fella is that played Bill Tillman, but this guy looks like a badass. And he was great. I think he was a local actor. So yeah, Bill Tillman and the Outlaws, don't miss it.
There's a film that you made that everybody here knows, and it was one of those raunchy comedies, Revenge of the Nerds, it just caught on like wildfire.
Yeah.
Good. And sequel after sequel.
Yeah, I can run, but I can't hide from that one.
Well, I'll tell you what, you could do us all a favor, is it didn't have really a catchphrase, but it had a catch laugh. Can you do that laugh still?
I can try. I don't know.
Let's have that. Do we want to hear that?
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, well, once you've got it, you never lose it. It's like riding a horse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You and Curtis did that as a reality show for Turner, didn't you?
Yeah, King of the Nerds.
Yeah, how did that go?
That went great. I mean, we found real nerds from all over the country and pitted them against each other.
Now, how would you go about finding nerds?
Well, they'd send in a 10 or 20 minute tape, and we'd watch them. Watch all these guys doing their best to convince us that they're the real thing. I mean, well, we had scientists from JPL, you know, PhDs. I mean, these people weren't kidding. They were the real thing.
You found the real absent-minded professor then, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How was the judging done?
Well, we would bring in guest judges. One episode we had Silent Bob and Jay. And we had George Takei from Star Trek.
Yep.
He was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a good time on that.
Star Wars, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sound of Music. In the tradition of these great films about fighting back against the odds, 20th Century Fox presents another milestone in motion picture history. Revenge of the Nerds.
Nerds!
Nerds. Nerds. Nerds!
What is a nerd?
They've been laughed at, picked on,
There's a roommate, pal!
and put down.
I'm not kissing a nerd.
They don't have the moves or the muscle,
You know karate? No. Good.
but they've got the brains.
I know what we're gonna do.
It's time for the odd to get even.
Their action tonight demands an immediate retaliation.
How many cameras do we have left?
This should do it.
Oh, here she comes.
Go up, go up.
Oh, no. Oh!
That nerd saw me naked!
Nerds!
Are all nerds as good as you?
Revenge of the Nerds. Their time has come.
I drink to that.